For my regular YouTube audience, you know what you need to do next to get to the information that you want from this video. But for those who are new to my channel, here are some key points to help you work best with the information in this video. Number 1. Timestamps and other important information can be found in the description to this video. Number 2. The dates of the energies that are unfolding in the week ahead are in the introduction section of this video. Number 3. The degrees of current planet placements and their location in signs are also in the introduction section of this video. Number 4. I'm a personal astrologer giving a general astrology reading in this video. For some people it will resonate. For others, it will not this week due to the influence of planets in your own personal horoscope. It may vary from week to week how much my forecast will resonate with you. If you would like a reading with me to explore your own chart further, the link is also in the description for this video. Number 5. I am using the traditional system of whole sign astrology for my analysis in this video. Number 6. By listening to the introduction, it's going to help you know what's in store for you this week. And then you can go to your sun, moon, and rising signs for more information on what to expect specifically. Number 7. I use both Vedic and Western astrology techniques with what is known as the tropical astrology chart, or, for those who aren't aware, the Western astrology chart. Please explore the placement of your Western or tropical astrology sun, moon, and rising signs using the timestamps for this video. Number 8. Haters and hateful comments will be removed from this video. This is a safe space for everyone who visits here, and like a good bouncer at a nightclub would do, I will eject any haters from this platform. And now here's a final couple of tidbits of information for you about how to use this video. Astrology is not designed to scare you. It's designed to give you information so that you know what the good and the challenging energies in the week ahead will be, and you can therefore consciously work with them to the best of your advantage. Remember, knowledge is power. Now there are scammers about, and so if you should receive a message from me on any platform requesting your money for a reading, know that it is a scam, report them immediately. And now settle in and let's see what the astral skies have in store for the week ahead. Well, hello everybody, and happy Christmas and happy solstice, and welcome to this week's Astro Weather Report. I am so excited to be here to share one of my very special shining stars from the Royal Stars Academy with you, Fiona Ingram, all the way from New Zealand, here to join us with a very special presentation of Saturn square Jupiter, or Jupiter square Saturn. Hello, Fiona, and welcome.
Hello, and hello, Kesenya. Thank you for having me on your show.
It is an absolute pleasure. Now, as I said, and I'm not kidding, you are one of my top students here at the Royal Stars Academy. So it's a real honor for me to have you come on and share. And I knew as soon as I asked you that whatever you had to share would be done thoroughly, fully, and just really succinctly. So I'm very excited to hear what you've got to say about this most important transit. But I want to mention to everybody out there watching that Fiona is from New Zealand, so Southern Hemisphere, just like me, and Fiona is very into Southern Hemisphere style astrology, and in fact she's created a very special calendar all about Southern Hemisphere astrology. So Fiona, do you want to share a little bit about your calendar and what it involves?
Okay, hello everybody, nice to be here with you all. Okay, so the calendar, it came out of one day where I was looking for an astrology calendar, and I walked into a local shop and they had a whole lot of journals and calendars for the Northern Hemisphere, and a lot of them had astrology, but there were none for New Zealand or the Southern Hemisphere. Later, I found out there are some really good New Zealand's calendar. So, but this shop, they didn't know about them, but there are some that exist. So I need to acknowledge that. But anyway, I just suddenly decided in November of that year to make a calendar.
Bravo.
This was 3 years ago. And it was all, coming out of, I think it was one of the things that come out of that Jupiter Saturn conjunction. So related to our topic today, actually.
Yeah, perfect.
And I made a really simple, basic one on Canva on my laptop, and then the next year, and sold 50 copies, and the next year sold 100, and then last year sold 100, and then this year I employed an illustrator, so it's now professionally done, and it's got like the lunar cycle. And then I asked my sister to market it, and then she went crazy and said, let's do it in Australia.
Yes, I'm all for that.
Yeah, so I'll just show you how it looks.
Yeah, show us how it looks, and I'll put a link for anybody who wants to purchase one in the description below.
Okay. All right, so this is the Australian edition of the calendar, just to show you what. Oh,
I love the logo. That's fantastic.
Okay, good. And so that's showing you a page, and it actually starts always from new moon, and then you can see the waxing moon with the lunar cycle, where the moon gets bigger and bigger, and then it wanes and it gets smaller and smaller. So it's not set out from the first of the month. And also it's all the illustrations are animals or birds that come from the country. So Australia has all these special Australian animals. So that's an Australian Kelpie to represent Capricorn, hardworking and loyal, dedicated to working hard and doing its job. And yeah, I'll just show you another one because
please, I want to see what they all are now. So you've chosen these animals to represent the signs.
Yes. Yes.
Cockatoo for Gemini, that's perfect. Oh,
yes, well, I do need to, for both of these animals, I need to acknowledge your other student, Tara Waters, because she gave me some advice about some of the best animals to use. And yeah, she said cockatoo, that'll be really good for Gemini. And in New Zealand, we've got a fantail, which flits around, chatting away. So New Zealand's got New Zealand animals and birds. Yeah,
that is magnificent. That
is kind of fun.
Yeah. And Tara did a presentation on the channel last year around this time. And so it's great that, this is what I wanted to build with the Royal Stars Academy, a lot of like a network and a collaborative introductory, I guess, to other people who are working with astrology, and it's great like that. So this is just beautiful. I love how you've made it so relatable to Australians or people in New Zealand. It's wonderful. So there's your little fantail, is it?
That's a New Zealand page. So there's the fantail, and that's an albatross for Aquarius, because it's above everything.
Yes.
Seeing everything with a big bird's eye view.
This is so beautiful, Fiona. So we'll pop a link in the description for anybody who wants to buy one, and that will be me lining up first and foremost to grab one. I think it's wonderful, especially because it's like what you said. Yeah, there are some calendars and there are some things out there for Southern Hemisphere based people, but there's not a lot. Most things are Northern Hemisphere centric. So it's just wonderful to see something focused on our familiar birds and animals and the dates of things occurring down here in the South. So bravo you. Thank you so much for doing that and for sharing that with us. Now, as a student of the Royal Stars Academy, can you tell us a little bit about what you enjoy most about the Royal Stars Academy? What have you gotten out of it so far?
It's actually been a great pleasure to be part of it, and I think it's a lot to do with your personality, Kesenya.
Thank you.
You're very warm and very good at connecting people, and I notice you are doing more and more of that. So yes, I'm in the course. The course is excellent. It's so in depth, thorough, and ordered. Like, it's got a really good structure. and it's very easy to follow because of that.
Right.
Yeah, so well structured. But then the extra to that is the fact that you are bringing us together and making us a family, like kind of like, yeah, like a network, and it's a warm network. It's you've got a lovely way about you that, and I see that how you bring people into your YouTube clips and how you share it, and but I also really like the depth that you go to, like you do like to dig underneath. I've got an eighth house stellium, and I know you've got eighth house stuff,
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. And but yeah, definitely for me, it's been the Southern Hemisphere perspective as well. Yeah, really relatable.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so encouraging, and thank you. I'm really humbled. That means a lot. Thank you so much. And we do, for those who aren't aware, for 7 months of the year, usually running from like March until October, November, we do a workshop once a month together on a Zoom meeting, and everybody who wants to joins in. And it's just been wonderful to get to know each other, and we're all at different stages, like all the
Yeah.
different levels, but we all learn from each other. I learn something every single time. It's absolutely fascinating. There's like, you never stop learning with astrology. There is always more to understand. So it's a really precious community that is forming through those workshops. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Sorry.
the workshops are fantastic. Yeah, there's just a different angle on things, and also people making connections with each other outside of the workshops because you've starting up their businesses, and
Yes, and we're all here to encourage each other in building our astrological work. So, again, it's a pleasure to share about your calendar and your work too. So, like I said, links in the description. Who would you recommend the Royal Stars Academy to? Do you think people need to have some knowledge, or can they come in fresh and learn from the very get-go?
I didn't actually do the beginners course. I started from intermediate, and I think what was really good was your description of what was going to be covered in the intermediate and the different both levels. It was very easy for me to know, oh no, that's my level.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably I'm sorry, I don't know the beginners.
That's fine. I
But
actually didn't realize you hadn't done the introductory. So
yeah,
I'm glad you didn't, because at your level, you have a really solid understanding, and maybe it would have been too simplistic, the introductory level, for somebody who has your amount of experience. So it's actually quite good that we mentioned this, because I am planning on releasing around equinox in 2025, the advanced astrology level, which
right.
would be another step up from the introductory level, exploring all sorts of amazing things, which I'll share at the time. But I'm learning so much putting that level of the
Wow.
course together. But there's 4 levels for people who don't know. There's introductory, which is just, if you don't know any astrology, you step into that, and it teaches you how to read a chart and how what the symbols mean and all the basic foundations. Then there's intermediate level, where we cover various techniques and predictive, as you found out, predictive techniques, and a lot of astronomy as well we look into as well in that level, because it's important that astrologers know their astronomy, don't you think?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. And then in the advanced level, I'll share about that around equinox. That's coming out in 2025. And then the final level is actually quite a short, condensed level. And it won't cost as much as the other levels, but it will allow people to get some professional training in how to do readings with others and how to interact with others to bless other people, basically, and get a certification with IICT, the International Institute of Complementary Therapies. And just before we dive into the meat of our video, Fiona, I just want to say that for the end of 2024, and we're very glad to say goodbye to 2024 as we head into 2025, I really want to just promote the Royal Stars Academy. So I'm offering $100 off both the introductory level and the intermediate level. And if you buy both, then you get an extra $50 off. So $250 off to buy both levels of the course. So there'll be details in the description for this video as well if you want to go to the Thinkific site and purchase your access to these two levels, the introductory and the intermediate, or you can buy them separately. You don't have to do both. But there are advantages to purchasing both and getting them as a package. So yeah, I'm doing that so you can get ready for advanced astrology when it comes out at equinox. You can get your study done over summer in Australia or winter in the Northern Hemisphere. So Fiona, I'm going to hand over to you now because I know you've got so much to share about the wonderful, or I wouldn't say wonderful, intriguing square between Jupiter and Saturn that is being formed this week. Very exciting. So I might hand it all over to you, and I might jump off the view so people can just see you.
Okay. Well, here we go, talking about the Jupiter-Saturn square, which is becoming exact on the 24th or 25th of December, depending on where you are in the world. And that is at 14 degrees and 1 minute of Gemini and Pisces. Okay. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk about key dates, some of the astronomy of these two interesting planets, the significations in astrology, the synodic cycle. I'm going to get a little carried away there, and what to expect with the square, and then an all signs breakdown. So something for everybody, I'm sure, in there. Okay, so key dates, and this is, I feel like this has been really interesting. It's all about the ongoing dance between Jupiter and Saturn, and that starts every 20 years with a conjunction. And we had the conjunction at such a significant moment because we came out of 2020 having had those conjunctions between Pluto and Saturn, Pluto and Jupiter. Mars was going through as well. It was a very heavy year.
That's an understatement.
By the experience. Very heavy year astrologically, and of course we know it was in the world as well. And then at the end of that year, by 4 years ago, 4 years ago to the day of this conjunction, just about.
The square, you mean, that's occurring?
Yeah, square, yes, the square. So, you know, it was on the December solstice, they joined. Jupiter and Saturn came together at 0 degrees of Aquarius, and it was meaning that everything was coming out of that Capricorn history, where everything, you know, all those conjunctions in Capricorn, that was all part of the big COVID story. And now, 4 years later, on the solstice again, we've got the opening square, and that is where they have come to. Saturn is slower, and Jupiter has moved 90 degrees from Saturn. Okay, and we're actually experiencing 3 squares because of the retrogrades. So the first one was in August 2024, Gemini and Pisces, and this one, 24th, 25th of December, Gemini and Pisces again, just a few degrees further back on the December solstice. And then the final one is quite close to the June solstice, and that's on the 16th, 17th of June, and that's at the world axis, 1 degree of Cancer and Aries. So it's really interesting dates with these solstices, I think.
Yeah, very, very telling. I don't know what to make of the fact that it's at the solstices, you know, but there's something definitely very aligned about that, let's say, perhaps, for lack of a better word.
And then those degrees, like the 0 degrees of Aquarius, and then 1 degree of Cancer and Aries. There's a significant points on the zodiac.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so there's just a bit of a visual, so you can get the feel of the sizes here, like Jupiter being so enormous, Saturn nearly as enormous, and then Neptune and Uranus, which we normally think of as being really quite big, because they are compared to us, but they just look like little tennis balls
They do. They
compared to
do.
those big fellas.
That's right.
Yeah.
So this is a what do they call like an accurate size comparison scaled down.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And you could never do it, you could never show them in line because they're just so spaced out, like you just couldn't represent it visually, not in an effective way. So I guess they bunched them all together, but yes, to
Wow.
scale. Okay, so a little bit about the astronomy of both of these. Jupiter is so big, as I just mentioned, it contains twice the amount of material that makes up all the other planets, moons, and asteroids. It's very big and extremely magnetic. It's got a bigger magnetosphere than all the others, and that's including if you count proportionately to its size. So it's actually bigger than its size than it should be.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? I think sometimes Saturn in his orbit crosses through the magnetosphere of Jupiter.
Yes, it does. And actually, if I got that, I'll just go to that. Oh, yeah, I'll come back to that point because
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting.
Mm.
Oh, so there's a visual of what a magnetosphere looks like. So it's like the magnetic energy. Oh gosh, I'm probably not using the right words, but anyway, it's with the planet and its rotation causes all these interesting waves and designs around it. And if we could visually see them, it would look something like that. And apparently the tail going behind is like a windsock that's like buffeting with the solar winds, and that's what protects us. So that's probably a representation of Earth there, but you can see the size of it compared to the planets.
Absolutely enormous. And there's been some research done in recent times that is indicating that we live in an electromagnetic universe. And so a lot of these impulses that we're receiving from other planets are electromagnetic, which makes sense, you know, like when we're looking at the science behind astrology, well, science is starting to prove that, yeah, we are affected by the planets. And here is why, you know, it's not visible to the naked eye, but it's still an effect that we perhaps haven't been measuring up until now. So very exciting times with these discoveries.
What is that? I really like this saying in terms of working in energy work or this kind of work that we do about the unseen. What is it? If something, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
Brilliant. That's perfect. Yes.
Yeah. So just because the scientific world with all its, you know, it wants concrete things that can measure, and it sometimes limits itself. You know, I love what science can do for us, but sometimes it does limit itself to what can be measured, and we need to remember there's a whole lot more that can't be measured.
So important to know that. You know, we live in an amazing, intriguing universe. We don't know it all, that's for sure.
Okay, so yeah, this is just a little bit more on Jupiter. Its magnetosphere, like if you had it, is bigger than the sun. In fact, there's a graphic. I don't know. Maybe I'll see if this will go straight there. So I couldn't use this picture without breaching Creative Commons, but so there you can see the relative sizes of the magnetosphere. So even though Saturn isn't that much smaller than Jupiter, but its magnetosphere is much smaller. And so it's that magnetic quality of Jupiter that makes it like it draws things in. Stuff I've learned on the Royal Stars Academy.
That's right. I had great pleasure in sharing how it's the great protector of the solar system because it sucks in all the little stray bits and pieces and comets and stuff like that keeps the inner planets, Mercury, the moon, Venus, Mars, keeps us all safe in here.
Yes.
You know, we owe a lot to big old Jupiter out there.
Yeah, we do. And there's an artist's representation of if Jupiter's magnetosphere could be seen, how big that would be. Like,
Oh, it's not showing because the links aren't
oh,
showing, Fiona.
oh, okay. All right,
Um,
never mind
we
then.
don't need to worry. I mean, like if you can't
Yeah,
get it up, that's okay. The
yeah,
link,
don't worry. We'll
but
leave that.
we'll believe you.
Okay, all right, okay. All right. So and astronomy about Saturn. Uh, so I've heard a number of astrologers mention that the ring system, and it's the most complex and developed ring system in the solar system. Obviously, the other planets do have ring systems. Even Jupiter's got some, but not very obvious. And one of the interpretations of that is that the rings represent the boundaries
Yeah.
that Saturn has. So
Mm.
Jupiter's like drawing everything in, but Saturn's kind of saying, no, no.
Yeah, that is true. And that's an as above, so below correlation that I've not actually made before, but that's what those rings, absolutely do represent. How brilliant.
Mm.
Mm.
And yeah, once I saw Saturn and through a telescope, like went to our local observatory, and it was just so beautiful with its rings. I thought, oh gosh, it's always like seen as the bad guy, but yeah, it was so beautiful and jewel-like.
Mm.
Another interesting point about Saturn I found was apparently its magnetic field is almost exactly aligned with its axis of rotation, unlike Earth, where we've got magnetic north is off kilter with actual
Yes.
north. And I wondered if this is just me thinking, Saturn, something really good about Saturn is it's straight. If it says it's going to do something, it'll do it. Reliable, straightforward. A spade is a spade. Yeah.
Very good. I
I
mean, that's
goes with
how it
it.
works. That's how it all works. The as above, so below theory is just so brilliant for astrology because every time you can find the connection. I was just talking in a video this morning about Pluto's big heart on the side, and Pluto, god of the underworld, still has a heart. And I love that.
Yeah,
I love that symbology.
yeah,
And, what you've described absolutely is so Saturn and
yeah,
perfect.
yeah. Pluto's definitely got a heart.
Mm.
Yeah.
Cold one sometimes, but a heart.
Yeah. And and this is something else from your course, Kesenya, is that hexagonal storm at Saturn's North Pole. I thought that was so interesting. I didn't know about that. And you mentioned in the course that in the past, of course, Saturn used to represent many more things that it doesn't now. Like it used to represent abundance and doing things in a different way, being a little bit crazy at times. And but at some stage, the mythology broke up, and Uranus took charge of that bit, and Neptune and Pluto took charge of these other bits, or became the significators for those aspects of Saturn. But you mentioned that this hexagonal storm and how unusual that is. It's unique. Um, Perhaps represents the fact that Saturn is still the ruler of Aquarius,
Mm.
the ancient ruler of Aquarius, and Aquarius has got that different way of doing things, different way of thinking.
Yes, and being that it's a electromagnetic storm as well, and
Right.
Aquarius rules electricity. Very true. Saturn is the ruler in ancient mythologies of the Golden Age, and to my mind, that's the the age opposite the Kali Yuga. In mythology, Saturn goes away and goes under to Ojija, I think is the name, and sleeps under the ocean. To mythologically told that he will return, a bit like Jesus coming back kind of thing, that he will return to govern a golden age. And it, to my mind, lines up with the Yuga cycles. So he's the ruler, the king of the golden age, and then he goes away for the duration of the other Yuga cycles, which we've been in for a couple of thousand years now, but then he returns, he's promised to return to govern the golden age again in this cyclical manner. So I'm very intrigued by Saturn's role in that regard, and what you've just described, some of the things that he he governed in that age, may come back under his rulership again. We shall see, I suppose, in future incarnations together, Fiona.
Yeah, let's see. We can have a chat then.
Yeah, we can. That's right, we will. We'll line that up. But for now, we can hypothesize.
Yeah. Okay, and in mythology, Jupiter is Zeus, the benevolent leader, big, expressive, just bounding around, basically doing whatever he wants.
And then some, yes.
And then some, yeah. Yeah. And in mythology, of course, Saturn is time, Chronos, and the depiction of Saturn, the symbol has a sickle. I should have the picture there, but anyway, meaning that it gathers the dead. It ends life, and especially to do with how he castrated his father Uranus with the sickle, and also the father of the Olympian gods. And this is what I found really interesting, was that Saturn rules so many things that it doesn't now. Like in the past, in ancient astrology, Saturn ruled abundance and also poverty, serious, being serious, also celebrating, following rules, being mischievous, being deceitful, being honorable. It's like,
he's very dualistic.
Well, how confusing, but it is a simpler planet now in the way that we use it in astrology now. But I had always wondered about this Roman festival Saturnalia, which I'd heard about, celebrated at winter solstice, perfect timing for today.
Yeah, that's right.
And in that festival, people went really out there, like revelries were quite out there, like people dressed up, went over the top, went too far, mischievous, slaves dressed as masters and vice versa, and it was gifts. It sounds more like a Jupiterian festival, but it was called Saturnalia.
Yeah, very, very role reversing. Yeah. And what you've just described is well, I wasn't really aware of the ancient interpretations of rules and mischief, both governed by Saturn, and yet the Saturnalia encompasses all of that sort of dichotomy. So brilliant, just brilliant.
It's interesting, but now Saturn is a simpler, serious planet.
Yeah.
So looking at the significations, Jupiter, expansion and abundance, confidence and optimism, able to go out and have adventures and knowing that everything will be all right because of that optimism and confidence. And you know how the optimism breeds luck, because confidence breeds luck, and lucky opportunities do come along with Jupiter. And at the moment, of course, we've got Jupiter in Gemini, and so whatever house that Gemini falls in, there are lucky opportunities coming along, and some of them will be challenged with the square with Saturn that we're discussing. But nevertheless, there's still a lot of luck and breakthroughs and things just going easily into new levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, so confidence. Also, there's that side of Jupiter, because it rules Sagittarius, that is about morals and ethics and truth and doing things righteously. Yeah, which is cool. And then, as we discussed before, that luck that Jupiter brings, it magnetizes the matters of the house or the sign it's in. Sometimes that might bring endings so that new good things can happen. I've had that experience, and at the end things are better off and bigger and brighter, and yeah, there's a feeling of luck about it. Yeah. Okay, and so Jupiter is a ruler of Sagittarius, and with that rulership of Sagittarius, it reflects Jupiter's ability to think expansively, to be generous, to be very interested in philosophy, ethics, systems of belief.
Yeah.
And because of that curiosity and interest in systems of belief and finding meaning in life, Jupiter explores. And that, whether that is through travel or learning about other cultures, even if you're at home, but you're still learning about places on the other side of the world. And also higher learning, like university learning or Royal Stars learning, whatever, higher learning. It's not like the local school learning.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And Jupiter under Pisces as ruler of Pisces, and that brings out Jupiter's ability to dream of what could be beyond what you've got here right now. And also Jupiter's ability with that righteousness as well, to be compassionate and benevolent. And there can be also with Jupiter and Pisces a thinner veil between the energetic realm and earthly reality. Okay, so and that's where Jupiter can magnetize in things that seem unrealistic, but it can really indeed happen, that things can happen that you just wouldn't think could happen before.
Yes, it's very much the miraculous, pulls things in. A lot of time that's not discussed about Jupiter, but it's one of the things I love the most. He can draw things in to his sphere, and that applies to anyone who's governed by Jupiter in any way too.
Okay, all right. And now looking at Saturn's significations. Saturn is like a father figure or authority figures, can be like your boss, can be quite a Saturn type figure. Rule makers, Saturn, it tends to be stern and serious. And I know a lot of people who are Capricornian or Capricorn people, or even Aquarius people, they feel bad when they're called stern and serious, but there's definitely, that's important that we've got people who are serious and sensible.
Yeah.
But at its basic level, Saturn is about boundaries and restrictions and endings. And that's why it's ruler of time, because time, of course, is our ultimate ending. Like it's, that great equalizer. We all must die. And because we have that restriction in place, it makes us think about the meaning of life and think carefully about how we use the time that we're allotted, and get a lot more out of life than if it was just endless.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. I like to think of Saturn in terms of like when you learn a new game, and a game only becomes like, it only kind of works because of the rules. The rules are what makes a game work and makes it fun.
Yes, that is so true. And whenever I do a relationship reading, I love to see Saturn interacting with the seventh house lord or the seventh house, because without it, you don't have a solid commitment or maturity, which every relationship needs. And, Saturn, sorry to go off on a tangent, but Saturn has great directional strength in the seventh house, because he's needed in relationships to build a strong, enduring relationship. You need maturity, you need commitment, you need to be in it for the long haul, you need to work hard at it. Without Saturn, in fact, I just have to tell you, when Dave and I got married earlier this year, we each gave a little talk during our wedding ceremony, and my talk was about Saturn. Who talks about Saturn at their wedding? Me. I was like, Saturn's coming to this wedding. But you need the Saturn influence for things to really work. You're so right.
I think of it also in creativity, like, because I can go to town, like say writing a song, I'll just keep writing it and writing it and writing it forever. But if I've got a deadline, like it's got to be finished, like even this video, I could have gone on forever making this PowerPoint. But the Saturn, and you're representing Saturn,
Yes.
ended it for me by saying 1st of November, or with a day of recording, or, Yeah.
That's right. We've got to have some boundaries here to make it happen. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And Saturn, ruler of Capricorn, and as ruler of Capricorn, Saturn is responsible and disciplined, traditional, conservative, steadfast, and hardworking. And because of that, there's productivity. Like Saturn does make things happen on a material level, so there are outcomes, and Saturn does like to see results. And there's also ambition and wisdom.
Yes. He crystallizes things, brings them into being, where Jupiter attracts things to him, to us. If you're a Saturnian person, you can crystallize things, bring like what's up here in the mind into the reality and make it real. I love that picture of Mount Cook. That's just beautiful.
Yeah, I like mountains for Capricorn. Yeah. And Saturn is ruler of Aquarius, and this the ancient ruler of Aquarius, because of course Uranus is also now. And so I was thinking a bit about how Aquarius and Saturn suit each other, and these were the descriptive words I came up with. Like, Aquarius is rational, steady, and cool, even aloof. Also, Aquarius, even though they can download stuff from the universe, like it's so genius, there's that genius streak, but it's usually about earthly solutions, like finding ways to make things better with practical results for large groups. Yeah, and I think also there's an inner confidence that is a Saturnian thing with Aquarius.
Yeah, very true.
Okay, and then here's a little bit of a slide. Saturn versus Jupiter. Yes, no, more, less, contraction, expansion. You can see there that there's a lot that's opposite about these two.
Yeah.
Eyes on the horizon, Jupiter, feet on the ground, Saturn. Okay, so I'm going to move on now to the synodic cycle.
This is interesting.
Yeah, okay. If I can, just going to move that a little bit. All right. Okay, so the synodic cycle. So the Saturn-Jupiter square is part of a cycle starting from the conjunction. And as we talked about before, the conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter on this cycle was in that very significant date of the December solstice, so winter solstice for the northern hemisphere, summer solstice for the southern hemisphere, and that was at that degree of 0 degrees of Aquarius. And that degree, of course, is getting even more amped up because Pluto's going back and forth over the degree. It's a really significant place and time that we're in because of this, I believe.
Absolutely right.
And then in June 2023, we had the opening sextiles. So first they were together and then they move around, but Saturn's slow, so Jupiter gets further ahead. And when they got to the 60-degree point of being apart by 60 degrees, that was in Taurus and Pisces, and that was in June 2023. So that was a sextile. And now we're at the moment of the opening square, except it's not exactly one moment.
No.
There's 3 key moments. And so it's going a whole year basically, but we're halfway through now. Okay. And so in August, we had the first opening square between Saturn and Jupiter in Gemini and Pisces. And at that stage, Saturn was retrograde. And then now in December, just after solstice, still within the 3 days of the December solstice, we've got the second square. This time Jupiter is retrograde. And then the final square, when both of them will be moving forward, will actually be at 1 degree of Cancer and Aries. So, and that will be, Saturn will have moved into its new placement of Aries, which is a big deal on its own. It's also going to have its conjunction with Neptune there, and it's also going to be square to at that time, halfway through the year, not quite at the Neptune conjunction, but anyway, that first degree of Aries is going to be hit off with that final square as well.
Yeah, that's very interesting, the retrogrades, how they've taken turns in retrograde and then they'll both be direct. Yeah, timing is everything, isn't it?
Timing is everything, and moved into a new sign and both direct.
Powerful. It's like we're moving forward. We've gone over what we needed to learn. We've repeated and learned and attracted in what we need to attract and repelled what we need to repel. And now, okay, away we go. It's great, actually.
So with that square, like Kesenya said, it's likely that things will come up, will have come up in August, they'll come up again in December, and then they'll come up again in June, and we work them out and work them out again.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay.
I'm really looking forward to the trine.
Well, let's look at that. Oh, by the way, yeah, I just put this quick table up of the 20th and 21st century conjunctions, because as many astrologers have been talking about, we've moved out of 200 years of Earth conjunctions, Earth sign conjunctions, just moving into a 200-year phase of air sign conjunctions. Yeah, and that's another reason why that big conjunction in Aquarius was really a significant one.
Yeah, very powerful times.
Okay, I went crazy with graphics. Okay, here we
Love
go.
it. We're all a
Graphic
visual
party.
society these days. We love to see things.
I like to see things. Okay, so the conjunction was at 0 degrees of Aquarius in December 2020. So they were both lined up in the sky, and you could see it. I don't know if you remember, Kesenya, you could see, I'm sure you do remember.
Very vividly. I remember taking my non-astrological loving family outside on Christmas Eve, or Christmas night it was, and to go and find Jupiter and Saturn in the sky. And we saw it and spotted it. And yeah, it was very memorable, very memorable.
Neat. My friends and I climbed a hill to acknowledge the solstice that year, and and that conjunction. It was pouring with rain, and I brought like this little meditation to read out, and it was just like the felt tip was just all over the place, but it was a cool experience.
So you didn't actually see it, but you were under the energy.
We were under the energy, yeah. We like doing stuff like that, my friends.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And then so that's showing the opening sextile. So let's see my mouse. So that was the conjunction. Then they moved around to Saturn in Pisces, and then Jupiter in Taurus. And usually when it's how this works with the synodic cycle is that there'll be some part of your life that started kind of soon after that conjunction. The conjunction's like the seeding time or the fermenting time where things are coming up. Yes. And then soon after that, new things can happen. And by the time it gets to the sextile, it's like you've kind of overcome the first steps and you're on your way. And it feels like, oh yeah, we're on our way now with the sextile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. What happened for you? What happened for you?
Well, I think doing the calendar has been a big part of this one.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a whole lot on what happened for me.
Oh, good. We'll get to that then. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I've talked about the previous synodic cycle, and I've used my career as an example of how it developed through that 20-year period. So, yeah, we'll talk about that soon.
I'll let you get to it.
Yeah. So the first square was in August 2024, and that was at those degrees, as I mentioned. And then there was because of the retrogrades, there was another square that's happening now. And then there's going to be the third square just a little bit further on. So 3 squares to make us realize that not everything's straightforward, and there's hurdles and challenges to work through. And I believe the message, and I'm sure Kesenya will have something to say, is we've just got to sometimes reset and reconfigure, but we've got to keep going and keep working through and not give up.
Perfect. I couldn't have said it any better myself.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
But it is likely that at this point, over this year's time, that those squares will bring up some challenges and hurdles.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, as Kesenya said before, the trine.
Yay! We want that one.
Okay, we need to remember to be grown-up astrologers and remember to say, oh yeah, every aspect is good.
Or we can get something out of it that's good if we're very
spiritual. Yeah, in the end, it's all good. And so trine, it'll be an easier time. It'll be where the fruits of the work that we did during the square and the challenges that we faced will be riding on those and likely to be feeling pretty happy at that point.
Yes.
Yeah,
Things
and
will
there's
go
3 of them,
smoothly. Yep, fantastic.
so that's good. And by that time, so Saturn in Aries and Jupiter all the way in Leo, this is in 2027, and then more challenging.
Oh, no.
2029 to 2030, we've got the opposition. So Saturn will have moved from that conjunction round to Taurus and then Gemini, and Jupiter will be Scorpio, Sagittarius opposition.
What's
So
interesting is that Jupiter will be sextiling almost the original conjunction, and Saturn will be trining.
yes, yeah, I felt like
Almost.
the placements were interesting.
Yeah. That's great.
And then there's another trine after we sort out the stuff from the opposition. 3 actually. And then there are 3 squares. And then there's 1 sextile. And then we get to 2040 and they are conjunct again. Libra, another air sign.
Yes, so it's going to be in air signs for what, about 200 years now, these conjunctions. So that's very interesting. Yeah, what was I going to say about air signs a moment ago? It's gone, it's escaped me, but yeah, very, very interesting. And
yeah, well, I have heard some say that with Pluto, because we've got at the same time, we've got this 20 years of Pluto in Aquarius. So lots of air energy.
Yeah, for the next 20 years. Pluto will move out of Aquarius in 2044. So we're almost at the end of the Pluto cycle too, which is 4 years off that, which is very, very interesting as well. They're very tied together. This first sojourn into air for grand conjunctions. So really, I think what's trying to be ushered in here is more of the age of Aquarius. So very, very powerful times.
Yeah, that's okay. So I've got a document here showing my career experience with the last synodic cycle.
Great.
I'm going to see if it will open it. If it doesn't, I think we'll try and do it another way. Like I might have to stop the share, then start the share. So
sure.
Okay, so what I did here, Kesenya, I did a bit of I looked at the last Jupiter Saturn synodic cycle to see how it worked out with a cycle in my own life. Okay, and because Jupiter rules my career house, it rules my 10th house, Sagittarius, and it rules my first house because I'm Pisces.
Yeah.
And Saturn rules my 11th and 12th houses. So, for everybody, Jupiter and Saturn rule a third of our charts. There's so much. But they were conjunct in Taurus, but I felt like it was a really good illustration. So just to show how the synodic cycle can work and where we're up to now. So it started with a conjunction, and a few months after the conjunction, I was, a young woman, applied for and won a teaching job, teaching performing arts. And that was like a new step for me. And it was really exciting. It felt really good. And it felt a bit fated and assisted actually by the universe because it arrived at just the right time.
Yes.
And it was the perfect job. So, when you get that little tinkly feeling in the air, like, ooh.
I love that feeling. I love it.
Universe is helping me.
Yes. The doors are opening.
Yeah.
Here I go.
Yeah, and it had that feeling, that job. So that was May 2000, that the conjunction was, and a few months later, I got that job. And then at the opening sextile, so this was like 2003, 2004, I had mastered that job and received recognition for it. And I applied for and won a higher status job. Okay, so that was all sweet. Had my first child. You know how much attention you get in a workplace when you have a kid? You're popular.
Very special, yes.
All that felt like lots of success in my career.
Yes.
And then
and of course you had Saturn in Cancer, which was the house of children.
Yeah, that's right. There's a few things that could be told there with some of the other transits. And then by the time it got to the opening square, I was in the new job, but that job was not easy. I was actually not well suited for it in a couple of ways, and I had jumped in the deep end. Like both me and my employers thought I was more ready for it than I actually was. And then I also had my second child, and because I was on a long-term contract, I wasn't permanent, and they didn't take me back afterwards. They didn't have to. So I kind of lost that job. It was
Right.
but it was good. It was good, but it felt hard.
Yeah, of
And
course.
and doing the job, like when I was having real trouble with it, that's not easy. You're at your job 8 hours a day, so it's never fun.
No.
But then there was the opening trine. I'd given up on that pathway and realigned, reset myself. And I was doing a lot of performing dance actually, and had success with that. And opportunities were opening, like doors were opening. And in the meantime, my career I was like mothering, because, that's an important job, and doing relief teaching. So that was filling things up, but I was shining in the dance world. I felt like I was. It was good. It was fun. And actually went to Sydney for a performance. It was like, oh,
That's
exciting.
that's exciting. What kind of dance?
Latin dance, so it was salsa.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then when the opposition came, like 2010, 2011, there was other stuff going on, but it played in. And so I will mention it. I had a relationship that was hard, and it was really pushing my buttons with confidence issues. Um, and also the guy I was going out with, there was a couple of guys. There was one I was leaving and one that was new, and they were both not easy. But anyway, they were involved in that world I was in. So I was seeing them all the time, and it was all played. So anyway, the opposition, it was definitely lots of confusing and hard stuff that I needed to work through. And what helped was actually going to counseling, and I went to a counseling and a women's course. And one day I said to the counselor, I want to start my own dance group, and I do the choreography. It won't be all Latin, but some of it. And she said, well, why don't you? And I'd never really thought, oh, I actually really could do that. And I did. And then it worked out really well. But it all came out of the clashes and the challenges of that opposition and the journey I went through working it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is so interesting, and so interesting that relationship troubles were coming at the time of the opposition, because that's oppositions. I mean, look, first house, seventh house is an opposition. That's relationships are often represented by that kind of thing in the horoscope. So very, very interesting.
Saturn was in my relationship house.
Of course, Virgo, yes.
Yeah. But then it came to the closing trine, and I'd started one or two dance groups, and I was leading them, doing the choreography. It was great. We were performing all over the place. And I also started a job at the local polytechnic, and I was doing well there and getting recognition for it. So that closing trine, things were coming together in a different way, like reconfigured, and it was fun and successful. Like the town was mine.
Yes.
It was a fun period. But then it came to the closing square, and things got difficult again. I was again in a job that was just it didn't suit me. It was a job where you needed to be like an authority figure and really organized and straight-laced, and I'm too right-brained.
Yeah. And proud of it, I say.
I'm proud of it. Yeah, it's just a matter of finding the right job. And then dance, I'd had enough. My kids were growing up. I felt like I wasn't seeing enough of them, and it was always a lot of work, and it wasn't feeding me in the same way. And so yeah, it was hard and challenging. Those big questions, and until you make the decisions, it's always hard to know what to do or where you're at. And then the closing sextile was the polytechnic job was still hard. Saturn was on my MC, so that was another thing playing in. But then I was given an easier role for the same pay. Maybe not easier, but you know, it suited me a lot more. And I just stepped back from dance and pulled down with that and took life easier. And then yeah, and then I actually was made redundant later from the Polytechnic job, but it ended up that by the conjunction, I didn't really have anything on the go, which
Right.
felt, you know, like it was the right thing. It was also the COVID time and all that, but it's like everything did actually close down.
Amazing. I'm so glad you shared this, Fiona, because as you're going through, I'm thinking, well, what was happening for me around that time? And I can see correspondences to this cycle in my own life that I've actually never consciously put together in that way before. I've looked at other things. Oh, I was having a Pluto square at that time, or Uranus was on my ascendant, or whatever. But here I can see another reason with what you've just shown through this beautiful illustration of your journey. I can see other reasons why things happen the way they do. And it gives more clarity now to what is coming up. So what do you feel like is evolving and coming up for you in this new 20-year cycle?
Well, I think the calendar is like such a step out of nothing I'd ever thought before. It felt like a big, huge moment where the universe just jumped into my head at that moment, and or angels or whoever. And I don't know where it's going to go. You know, it might go nowhere, but it's a great fun experiment.
I'm sure it won't go nowhere.
It's a great fun experiment, and it's been a lot of fun. And then doing it with my sister as well, and all that. So that's let's see where this goes. Let's see where this goes. And of course, there's going to be challenges, but let's see where it goes. And at the same time, like I've left dance, but now I'm doing a lot more music. And so with Jupiter going through my third house and all that. But anyway, I feel like this new cycle that we're in now, it's been music in the calendar, and also a whole new way of working where I'm self-employed for nearly everything instead of working for the government. Yeah, it's very different.
It is, isn't it? It's pressurized in one way, but it's liberating in another, isn't it? To be your own boss.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I
who
love
knows?
that.
How about you, Kesenya? Do you think you've noticed
Oh,
anything?
I think it might be relationship.
Yeah, of course.
For me, that was what kicked off. And I was looking at the previous cycle, which corresponded with the relationship journey that I had been on as well. So it seems to tie into relationships for me, perhaps because Jupiter rules my first house and sits in my first house and is on the relationship axis, and Saturn's in the fifth house of love and romance. So those two planets have a lot of bearing on the relationships in my life. Saturn sits with my seventh house lord as well. So there I could see correspondences to relationship very strongly there for me. And again, with this cycle and with David. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, I do want to acknowledge, like, not everyone's cycle might look as clean as that. I think that one was kind of tidy, partly because, you know, 2020 brought so many things to a close with the all those conjunctions in Capricorn and COVID and all that.
Yes.
And yeah, and also it timed the starts at the beginning of that cycle timed quite well with my first Saturn return. I was just coming out of my first Saturn return. So there's always those other cycles in life.
Right.
Yeah.
They're all crossing over, but it's through understanding the cycles that we can see the links and the you know, how things are working. We're complex beings, and
Yeah. Life is complex. Okay, okay, I need to share again.
Yes.
Okay, are you okay? So Saturn and Pisces, let's talk about that. That's from 2023 to 2026. And we can expect with Saturn and Pisces, which for Saturn and Pisces is covering us for two of the squares in August and this one in December. Restrictions and challenges to the water cycle, like weather patterns and water systems, whether that's town water supply or anything to do with water, irrigation matters. Restrictions and challenges to charitable acts and social welfare. I could name some examples, but this video is long enough already. Places of retreat and healing. So all these mundane significations for Pisces. And I think that Pisces has gone a little bit crazy with Neptune being in Pisces for the last 14 years and Neptune at the 29th degree. So it's probably good some of this is getting sorted out and tidied up with Saturn. Not always easy to go through.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then Jupiter in Gemini. So that's between 2024 and mid 2025, but just before the final square. And then we've got this feeling of expansion and luck in the areas to do with Gemini. So that can be anything to do with communication, chat and humor, plans and arrangements, neighborhoods, social media, small business, trade and exchange, your relatives, your siblings. And but at the same time, through nearly all that time that Jupiter is in Gemini, we're strongly under the influence of it being square Saturn. So also challenges with those. Challenge. So luck, a mixture, luck and challenges. Okay. So here's some little examples of what it could look like. What kind of things can happen with Saturn square to Jupiter in Pisces and Gemini. So wet weather, Saturn in Pisces affecting community events. Town councils having challenges with water supplies. There's lots of that in New Zealand at the moment. Relative siblings and neighbours having some kind of troubles that could be to do with things like pharmaceuticals, substance use problems, and that's with that Pisces influence. Floods or slips preventing local travel. That's quite a story in New Zealand these days. Or it could even be like, with Pisces having dreams and ideals, but your neighbours or family members disapprove, and that makes it more difficult for you to follow your heart and your dreams.
Really great connections there. Yeah. Can see those things happening.
Yeah, they have been happening. But yeah, also partly because just having Saturn in Pisces and Neptune at that anorexic degree of Pisces.
Yes.
Okay. So what to expect on your own journey with these three squares that we're in the middle of now. So thinking about for yourself, what journeys, processes, or stories started not long after the 2020 conjunction. And these stories will have been facing some challenges, some sticky situations, roadblocks that need to be faced up to. They're unavoidable, and we need to work through them. And that's usually a messy process, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very messy.
Yeah.
But necessary.
Necessary, yeah. And at the end, we, obviously we grow through it and we come out the other side and we adjust as needed. Yeah. Okay. And so we're going to do an all signs breakdown.
Yes.
And I chose to start with Aquarius. Something I really like about your videos, Kesenya, is that you're very egalitarian with which sign you choose to start with, and you change it up each time.
That's right. Well, being a Pisces as you are, we always go last. And of course, we're very gracious about that, but also there needs to share that going first and last around a bit. So I liked that you started with Aquarius.
Yeah.
Good on you.
So Aquarius, of course, had the great conjunction in 2020. And so that was a new start for Aquarius in your first house. And it was the end of 2020. So you would have noticed it more in 2021. New ideas were starting to come. And so first house is everything that you are, your body, who you are in the world, how the world sees you. Okay. And then with Jupiter square Saturn, Jupiter is in Gemini, and that's in your fifth house. So that's expansion or good luck with things to do with romance, children, fun, creative play, just playfulness, that kind of creative confidence and playful confidence that you can have in the fifth house. Yeah. Okay. And at the same time, progress in those areas, there'll be expansion and luck, and at the same time, the challenge of having the square with Saturn, so challenges coming along. And in the meantime, you've got Saturn in your second house, so restrictions in your restrictions or limitations or challenges coming up to your personal wealth, your sense of self-worth, what you value, and that will lead to, of course, by the end of Saturn's transit, becoming more mature and realistic.
Yay! We love that process. Said no one ever.
Okay, and so let's go on to Pisces. So Kesenya and I, for everyone listening, we are both Pisces rising people. And so we had the great conjunction of 2020 in our 12th house. So it was a new start with areas of retreat, overseas travel, dreams, things that end. It's about being a bit separate from the world. And I definitely notice I hardly see my friends now. It's like, oh, 12 house.
Why is that?
Oh, I think I do think it's that 12th house. You know, we've got Pluto in that 12th house as well. And basically I've been working so hard on the calendar. Yeah, that's not leaving heaps of time spare.
Yeah, I've had more overseas travel since the grand conjunction than I've had in my life. So I seem to be going overseas all the time, which is no mean feat when you live in Australia down the arse end of the earth. So it's just interesting how this works.
It's a long way for us to go, but yeah, overseas travel is a big topic for me at the moment as well. And so it'll be interesting to know in the comments for everybody how this is, what you're noticing for yourself, and you know, if you share your rising sign and what you're noticing about that synodic cycle maybe starting to play out.
Love it. Yeah, we want to see lots of comments.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, and also, so for Pisces as well, so Jupiter's in our 4th house, so expansion and luck in the home or family of origin or heritage. But also the progress can feel slow and hard, and I'm needing to do some fixing of my house, sort some stuff out, and I've had some real openings up of luck with that. But oh man, it's hard work. Like again, not having heaps of spare time and stuff like that. Yeah, so I'm feeling like I'm having to be an adult.
Yes, I've 4th house is also vehicles as well, and I've had to purchase a larger vehicle because our family's just too big for the small car I used to have. So definitely a bigger vehicle, Jupiter in the 4th house.
And of course, we have Saturn in our 1st house. So
aren't we loving that?
I feel like I'm such an adult now and being really mature and sensible nearly all the time. And I do feel older and I don't feel much fun.
That's it. I'm just noticing all the grey hairs that I've got to deal with now. I was like, oh, thanks, Saturn.
But sometimes, here's a little, I don't know, a tip, but sometimes I'll use cards for yes or no answers, or tarot cards, and methods of what is called, you know, what do you call it when you use it for, anyway,
divination.
Divination, yeah, methods of divination. And some, especially with Saturn going over my actual ascendant, I'm around mid-Pisces, so this is all big at the moment. I don't want to do that. No, I want to make a clear, rational decision with the stuff that's in my head.
Yes.
And every so often when Saturn goes a little bit further away from my ascendant, I go back, use some cards, do some divination. Then it comes back and no, I don't want to do it that way.
Isn't that interesting? You know what? I have always been looking forward to the Saturn transit across the 1st house for the management of weight, because Saturn is meant to, when he transits your 1st house, make you lose weight. Well, I found that when Jupiter transited my 1st house, I was able to sort of put more effort and energy into, you know, regular exercise and eating well, and I didn't have to really worry too much. But with Saturn there, I've put on more weight than I have in ages. Not that, I mean, I know I don't look any different, but, or much different, but I know, you know, you notice it yourself. Yeah. Clothes are tighter and all that kind of thing. I'm like, Saturn, you've let me down here, man. You're meant to be helping me out here in the 1st house. So,
yeah.
So well, maybe I'm finding it that's causing that. Who knows?
Well, I'm finding it hard to exercise, and a lot of my exercise is play and fun. And that it's hard to have time to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm having a similar experience.
Yeah, that's my reason too. Like, just so busy and so much hard work and things like that are requiring much more effort, that exercise has taken a back seat. So yeah, it's so
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's cool to know it's going to move on. Like this is at we're supposed to be at this stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Aries, you guys. Well, you guys are going to have some really big times in 2025, 2026 when you've got the Saturn Neptune conjunction. That's going to be exciting. But in terms of that great conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter in 2020, that was a new start in your 11th house. And so the 11th house rules things like large groups of people, like networks that you choose to belong to, a little bit like the astrology network that Kesenya is creating. You know, you're connected by something that you have in common together, and we're choosing to belong to it rather than like your town so much or your family. Long-term goals, humanitarian causes, and perhaps trying to come up with new solutions that will help the masses, like help large groups of people, and gains from your career and innovative ideas. Oh yeah, I wonder if the Aries people have thought of some really cool answers to
I
the word
hope
problem.
so. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome, yeah. And I guess with these amazing new solutions that you Aries people have got, you'll be experiencing the square at the moment, and there could be some challenges. So Jupiter's in your third house, so you're getting some expansion and luck to local learning, like more the lower level learning, like learning skills or primary education, going to local courses, local travel, community, small business, networking in general around the town, going around chatting to people. So you'll be getting some breakthroughs there with Jupiter, but also it could feel really hard with the square with Saturn. And in the meantime, you've got Saturn in your 12th house. And that can mean like you don't get to dream as much. You don't get to be as creative, perhaps. And that there's lots of different signs that have a lot of creativity, but they're all different types of creativity. But with Pisces and Saturn and Pisces, that means that Saturn could be giving you some blocks with that kind of creativity. It's like where you connect to the universe and you feel like we are all one, and you're floating in a sea of angelic harmonies. But that's restricted at the moment. Yeah, and perhaps your intuition might not be as easy to access as usual.
Yes.
But in the meantime, becoming more mature and realistic.
Yeah, okay. So interesting. When you and I had Saturn in the 12th house, all our travel was restricted. And the ability to go overseas we're talking about travel earlier for Pisces people. So I don't know whether Aries people might be finding their travel could be a bit restricted, interaction with foreign places and faraway places.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Okay, so for Taurus, you've got a new start. You had a new start with that great conjunction in your 10th house of career. Or especially career, but also public recognition, status, where you want to achieve mastery in a way that's recognized by the world, and also where you're working towards a legacy that you want to leave behind. So yeah, it'll be interesting to hear from some Taurus people about whether you've started some new steps in your career since that great conjunction.
Well, the creation of a legacy, fascinating.
And then you've got Jupiter in Gemini in your second house, and that means you're having expansion and luck with your personal wealth, your sense of self-worth, material goods, luxury items. So some breakthroughs there, but also some challenges, and it might feel like hard work because of Saturn square. And then with Saturn in your 11th house of Pisces, you're having restrictions with your large group connections, like where you're a member of a network or a community, like a community by choice. Your long-term goals, maybe you're really having to rethink what your long-term goals are, what you want to aim for. humanitarian causes, or the gains from your career. So you might be doing really well in your career, but you're maybe not seeing great increases in your income
Yet.
or recognition yet. Yes. Yeah. Okay, but it will help you perhaps to become more realistic and mature along the way because of Saturn there.
Having to exercise patience to see those rewards fruit.
Yeah. Saturn definitely demands patience. Okay. So Gemini, you had the great conjunction of December 2020 in your 9th house, and that would have brought about new starts for your belief systems, travel, adventure, learning about other cultures, or higher learning in general, or your philosophies and your beliefs. And if you are religious, it's like your religion or your systems of spirituality.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've got Jupiter in your 1st house, so you'll be getting some breakthroughs and luck in everything that you are. So expansion of your body, like Kesenya and I were talking about, perhaps you're getting bigger, but perhaps your reputation and that your 1st house is everything, yourself. There's new things happening for you with Jupiter there.
And there's often relationships that can unfold from that. Saturn is also, now just on this, with Vedic aspects. Jupiter is aspecting the 7th house, and Saturn is also aspecting the 7th house for a Gemini person. And that is very auspicious for relationships forming. So at the moment, Gemini people are in a really positive space for the manifestation of relationships, even though they're in a square to one another, Jupiter and Saturn, because they're both aspecting by Vedic aspect the 7th house. It's actually very positive for Gemini people for relationships. So I'd love to see some comments to see if that is actually what's manifesting for some Gemini people.
Right. Yeah. And then you've got Saturn in your 10th house of career with Saturn and Pisces. So for that 3 years of Saturn and Pisces, restrictions for your career and reputation and your status and what you want to work towards in terms of leaving a legacy behind. But it will lead to you getting things sorted out, or things will happen from outside or from within you that might change your direction, or you overcome whatever these challenges are by attending to it with a good, positive, disciplined attitude.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And Cancer. So you had the new start with the great conjunction of December 2020 in your 8th house. And this is a house of your hidden psychological layers, what's underneath. It can be about esoteric matters, occult practices, even like astrology. That's one of the ways that astrology can be seen. Your deep motivations, but also on the more tangible level, other people's money, like your partner's money, or big amounts of money in investment, or even debt, the other way as well. So a new start there, and it's a house of transformation. So you might be going through some big transformations over the 20 years.
I know a number of Cancer people who have actually gone through big life turnarounds since the Great Conjunction. They're 180 degrees from where they began 2020. So it's a powerful one.
Neat. Okay. And for Jupiter square Saturn that we're going through now for Cancer, so Jupiter is in your 12th house. So you might have been having some expansion and some luck in the ways that you retreat, the ways that you rest, your spirituality, your charitable acts or behaviors. And you might be having some endings and also some long distance travel, like overseas travel, where you've kind of disappeared out of sight of your normal life.
Yes.
Yeah. And at the same time, it could be hard because of the square from Saturn. Yeah. And Saturn is in your 9th house of Pisces over there around about 3 years. And it means that you're approaching your philosophy, your higher learning, and maybe the ways that you make sense of the world and find meaning in the world, but also perhaps how you travel and the adventures that you seek. You'll be doing that in a more sensible way. There may be endings, and there might be new ways of doing things that need to come in.
Yes.
And it's serious. It feels serious.
Yes, traveling for serious purposes. Yeah.
Oh. And Leo, you had that great conjunction of 2020 in your 7th house. Wow. Maybe some of you were divorced and you met a new partner, or you've divorced since. So 7th house is mainly seen as the marriage partner, but it's any partnership, one-to-one relationships, also agreements between people and contracts between people, but certainly marriage partners where you're in a committed relationship together. Yeah. So there's some story playing out over that 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then with Jupiter square to Saturn, Jupiter's in your 11th house, and that's bringing expansion and luck to your career gains and also to your long-term goals. And it might mean that you change some of those, but it's going to feel really good at the end, like you've got something new and inspiring to work towards. And also like where you're connected to large networks that you've chosen. And there can be some expansion and luck there, and also the challenges from the square with Saturn. Yeah. And Saturn is in your 8th house. So that could mean that you've got some of those underlying motivations that are often hidden from the world and the deep mysteries that we all have within us. There could be some transformation there, and it could feel hard and serious, and it could take work in order to work through some of that deep, painful stuff often. Yeah. And then on on a more practical level, there could be restrictions in access to other people's money, whether that's your partner's money or investments or problems there.
Yes, very true.
But becoming more mature and realistic because of it. All right, Virgo. So you had a new start in the sign of Aquarius. So that is your 6th house. And that was with the December conjunction in 2020. And the 6th house, it's always seen as a bad house, but I really like the 6th house because I love the idea that it's about giving service.
Yeah.
And I love when one's daily work and routines are really pleasurable. So
Yep.
I like the 6th house because of that. But
do you have any planets in your 6th house, Fiona?
No, I don't.
No? No?
I don't.
Is your sun well positioned because it rules your 6th house?
No, I can't figure out the reason. But of course, being Pisces, the 6th house is Leo. So I reckon I really get into that because I do, I'm involved in performing arts. So there's lots of Leo showy stuff. Even when you're just a normal teacher, you're kind of performing.
Yes, of course.
And if I notice if I enjoy a job and that I feel playful in that job, and I can shine in that job, and I'm recognized. I like to get the attention in my jobs.
Yes.
Yeah, it really works for me.
Yep. Yeah. Because Pisces have they're very Cinderella with the 6th house, they're the happy, joyful Leo in the 6th house while they work, and I think about Cinderella always happy and joyful while she's cleaning the cinders out of the fireplace,
Yeah. Yeah. So for Virgo, your 6th house is Aquarius, and so that rules your daily work, how you give service, your daily routines like your nutrition, your health, your exercise. And that would have had a whole new start in following 2020. So there would have been a quiet time where you're working the new stuff out and then new things coming in. So yeah, let us know what you're noticing with your work or service. Okay. And Jupiter is in your 10th house. So that is bringing, and that's going to enhance all that work and service. in your 10th house because that's your career house. So it's likely that you're having some luck and expansion and opportunities in your career and your public reputation. And on the other hand, there could be challenges because of Saturn square there. And then you've also got Saturn in your 7th house. So restrictions and challenges in partnerships and marriages. And yeah, Saturn in the 7th house is not the easiest.
No.
But in the end, it will all get sorted out and you come out the other side with important learning.
Yep. And mature. And we know Saturn has great directional strength when he's in the 7th house. So there is a purpose. Rest assured, Virgo, there is method in the madness, even though it can feel heavy sometimes.
Thanks. Okay. And Libra, the great conjunction of 2020, that happened in your 5th house. So, and that is a house of fun, creativity, play, children, areas where you lead from the heart with confidence and pride and romance. So that's pretty cool.
Guiding things in that area.
Yeah. And yeah, so it would be interesting to see what started. Is there anything that you're leading in a really creative project where it's, sometimes I think of that 5th house as like a toddler painting. Or Leo as a toddler painting. They're just so confident. They just paint whatever they want, and they'll have maybe an idea of something they want to paint, and it's colorful and bold and bright, and it's perfect because it's just what's come from them.
Yes.
And they don't have a sense of, oh, do I need to like make it look a certain way? They just do what comes from their heart.
It's just so powerful. Like I did a small art therapy course years ago, and just to get back into that childlike mode and just feel free to draw whatever in whatever colors, in whatever method, that's something that's conditioning that we've learnt to not do that. And we have to uncondition ourselves to get back to that childlike state. It's so powerful when we can.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think Leo's really cool. And the 5th house. Okay. And for Libra, Jupiter square Saturn. So Jupiter's in your 9th house of expansion and luck in your philosophies of life or your belief systems about life. And you might be getting some breakthroughs, which could be you find a really good book that leads you off in a new direction with your understanding of the world, or how you organize your ideas about the meaning of the world. Or it's just like joining a course that's really inspiring you and just helping you understand how things are organized in the world. And at the same time, it could be hard, and there could be hard work involved with that, perhaps discipline, because of the Saturn square.
Yes.
Yeah. And with Saturn in your 6th house of Pisces, so this is about your daily work, your routines, and how you give service. And you might be finding that has not been straightforward with Saturn in that house. And you may be having to, maybe you get some health matter come up that makes you have to pull your socks up and, stop eating sugar or whatever it is. Or start doing some press-ups in the morning.
No, gosh. Actually, Saturn being a malefic planet in a malefic house can be helpful for getting into routine and getting organized and creating some structure there. But yes, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, it might be that because of that, you actually really enjoy the rigor of it, because there can be pleasure in that.
Yes, of course.
Okay. And with Scorpio, so the great conjunction for you in December 2020 was in your 4th house of home, your family of origin, your roots, what you've come from, your ancestry. And so on a practical level, it might be that you've started something new in terms of your home and where you live. So maybe renovation or moving to a new place. Or it could be some big change in the way that your family is. So maybe changes in who's in your family. If somebody arrives in the family, new siblings, partner, or a new person in the house. Maybe you've got a new foster child or a new baby, but something about the people you live with and your home and your family, that family of origin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then Jupiter's in your 8th house. And so the 8th house being about psychological matters and transformation, like, all or nothing. Everything crumbles and you have to rise like the phoenix from the ashes. That can be what the transformation looks like, whether that's financial, because it is a financial house, or with what's going on inside and your feeling underneath about what motivates you in life and your inner strength in life and your issues, your psychological issues. Yeah. So you could be getting some luck with that helps you with those transformations, or helps you access perhaps other people's money. Maybe you get a gift, an inheritance, or just a gift of some money that helps you out. But at the same time, there could be some hard stuff with it, with Saturn square.
Yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic, 8th house, 5th house square aspect. There's one that's luck and, good fortune, 5th house, and 8th house is considered a malefic, but it can still be beneficial too, where you inherit or receive. So it's, yeah, very, very interesting dynamic to have these two playing out on that square axis.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, having Saturn in the 5th house. Ooh. Okay. So 5th house is normally about fun, as we've been talking about, and children and the freedom of expression, self-expression, how you shine in the world, and romance. And you're approaching those things with discipline and seriousness because of Saturn there. And it can feel like you're lacking in fun, but it will be for the good in the end, because Saturn will help you sort some stuff out and be more adults.
Yes. As somebody who's got Saturn in the 5th house natally, you can handle it. It's okay.
Oh, have you got any advice, Kesenya?
Oh, endurance and perseverance mostly. And a lot of the time, people with Saturn in the 5th house have their idea of fun is actually work. Saturn is work. And what do I do what's my hobby, my spare time? I'm just astrology the whole time.
Yeah.
That's my, that's my joy.
Yeah.
So that's a positive way mechanism for Saturn in the 5th house, is to find joy and fun in the work that you do.
That's neat. Okay. And for Sagittarius, so the great conjunction happened for you in your 3rd house. That was in December 2020. So you've got a new start in the sign of Aquarius. So, and your 3rd house is about neighbors, community, your siblings, like your brothers and sisters. It can be also your other relatives in your wider family, your extended family or whānau. Local travel, local learning, learning skills or crafts. And I really kind of like the 3rd house is really cool. The house of the goddess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? That's the house of the goddess.
Yeah. I love that. And I heard that from Demetra George. Yeah, because the 9th house is supposedly the higher, the house of God, and it's, about those lofty ideals and philosophy. And I can just imagine these guys just talking, the philosophy, all the reasons behind things.
Yes.
But the 3rd house is like, I think it's like neighbors in their garden, growing stuff in their garden, swapping veggies.
Yes.
And that's goddess like, it's
that's beautiful, isn't it?
sharing herbs and sharing remedies, all that ancient women's wisdom. Yeah.
Fiona, that's one of the most beautiful descriptions of the 3rd house I think I've ever heard. I absolutely love that. That is just gorgeous. That's really what it is. It's a sharing. It's the sharing economy is the 3rd
sharing economy, yes.
Oh, I have goosebumps. That's really special. I might have to include that in my astro weather reports in the future. Thank you.
Well, I've got a bit of an opinion about capitalism, whereas, like we say, we want to get rid of capitalism, but I actually think capitalism isn't something it's so natural to humans to strive to get better. And when it operates on that small level of the community level, it can operate so effectively. It's so effective, and it means there's all this sharing, and people can produce something that they're good at producing, and then you're trading and exchanging and striving to do better, and it makes you produce something that suits people better. And it's only when we get into the monopoly thing and the corporate thing that there's a problem.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Brilliant.
Okay. All right. So Sagittarius with Jupiter square Saturn. So Jupiter's in your 7th house. So you could have been having some expansion and luck in partnerships and marriage and relationships, or even contracts or partnerships where you work with other people, but also with your marriage partner or your long-term partner, love partner. Okay. And at the same time, there could be some hard stuff. So a mixture of like real blessings coming in and challenges as well. Yeah. And with Saturn in your 4th house, so you could have been having some challenges in your home for these 3 years of Saturn and Pisces, restrictions, problems perhaps, or challenges, things that feel hard, like hard work in terms of your family of origin or your roots or the house that you live in. Okay. And in the end, it will get sorted out with, as Kesenya said, persevere and work through it.
Exactly. And you can do some remedies, put some rocks around your house with Saturn. Saturn rules rocks.
Oh, yeah.
So direct the energy into some rocks in the garden and you might cope a little better.
Neat. Good idea. I've got a pounamu or greenstone. It helps me to ground.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Okay, so Capricorn, for you, well, you guys, you poor things, you had those really challenging conjunctions with Pluto through 2020. It was all coming out of your house, and people have been complaining about your house a lot because of that.
Yes, poor
I feel sorry for you guys. Yeah, but Capricorn is an amazing sign, and actually from you, Kesenya, I've learned some of those really good things about Capricorn, like the mastery and the wisdom. Yeah, it's really cool. So working hard for long-term results and being really sensible.
All my closest friends are all Capricorn, and no surprises when you're Pisces, you've got Capricorn in the 11th house. So of friendship. So yeah, but I just love Capricorn energy. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So that after that big year that we all had, but you guys especially had, and you've had Pluto in your house for the last 14 years or whatever. So, oh my goodness, you've had a lot. But Pluto's moving into Aquarius, so that's another new start. But also you had the great conjunction in December 2020 in your 2nd house. And so that is some new start for your personal wealth and your finances, your financial situation, your sense of self-worth, and even your value systems, like the material things that you value. Okay. And then for Jupiter square Saturn, Jupiter's in your 6th house at the moment, and that brings expansion and luck and how you give service, your daily routines, your health, what you do for your health on a daily basis, and where you go to work each day, whether that's at home or wherever it is. So expansion and luck, and also some challenges because of the square to Saturn, and ways that you need to face up to things and do the disciplined work. And then at the same time, Saturn is going through your 3rd house while it's in Pisces, so that's for nearly 3 years. And that's bringing restrictions to your 3rd house, so restrictions to perhaps your neighbors or your siblings, other relations, or restrictions in your community, or maybe your connections to the community. Or if you run a small business, perhaps some ways that you really need to sort that out and put some boundaries in place and run it in a more organized way. Or your local study as well.
Yeah, or the sharing economy.
Yeah, and the sharing economy that we've just talking about. Mm.
Brilliant. Wow. I feel so expanded and enlightened. Very Jupiterian of you, my fellow Pisces rising, regarding this amazing square. And honestly, like understanding the cycle and how it plays out over time is just so empowering to know what is going on now is only part of a much bigger effect that's at play. I think when we can see the big picture, Fiona, it helps us navigate the more difficult and challenging times, knowing it's not going to last, knowing there's purpose to it, and that it's all part of an unfolding. So I think you really highlighted that beautifully for everyone. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Well, it's been a real pleasure to come and talk with you, Kesenya. You're so lovely. I had another slide where I said, thanks, Kesenya, for all the joy that you've brought me, because I've had heaps of joy, like long before I actually met you in person.
Yes.
It's straight away, as soon as I first started hearing your videos on YouTube, I just thought, oh yeah, this is the lady for me.
Oh, great. It's
Yeah.
it's that Pisces connection. It's just
I
lovely.
think so, but I think you do them really well. Like, yeah, you've got that personal touch, you've got that down to earth Aussie thing going on.
Yeah. Sometimes they're a bit too down to earth. I'm
Oh,
fine.
I like it. I like it. And then you go into such depth, like you don't just bounce stuff off. You think about what's behind it.
Yeah, well, I would put that down to the blessing of having Jupiter in the first house and probably my moon with Uranus that allows that to be the case in the eighth house. And you've got a lot of planets in the eighth house too, so you like that in-depth stuff as well. And I think it's I love people who have that. I think Ernst Wilhelm has a lot of eighth house
Oh, yeah.
emphasis too, and I love how in-depth and psychological a lot of his analysis is too. So yeah, I find the same as you, drawn to people with a lot of the depth in how they do astrology. But thank you for that. That's just beautiful to know. And thank you so much again for all the hard work you've put in here. Friends, check out, is it sunandmooncalendar.com?
Yes.
Yes.
Sunandmooncalendar.com. Yeah.
So I might either oh no, I won't put a banner up. I was going to say I'll put a banner up, but that'll interfere with your slide. So I'll put the link in the description below for everybody so they can head on over and order a calendar just in the nick of time, ready for next year.
Yeah.
So that will be something that we can all look forward to, perhaps popping in our Christmas stocking if we get it in time.
Oh, neat.
But thank you, Fiona, for all your wonderful knowledge and for being a participant in the Royal Stars Academy. It's such an honor to have people like you in the course who I learn from and share with. It's such a blessing. So come and join us, one and all, at the Royal Stars Academy for 2025. Come and learn astrology alongside Fiona and with me as well, alongside me, because I'm learning as we go along too from you guys. And it's just been wonderful to share this today. So happy Christmas, happy solstice. Thank you again,
Yeah.
Fiona.
Happy solstice. Yeah.
And we'll catch you next week with another Astro weather report. I am thinking it'll possibly be, oh no, it'll still be 2024, just looking at my calendar, 2024. So we'll catch you then with another video. Thank you.